Everybody, so today I thought we could color this super cute Pearl Tilda by Magnolia. I've already stamped her on Neenah 80-pound Solar White cardstock with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And if you're interested in this kit, head over to the store and I'll put a link down in the description box. And you can just type in the search bar Pearl Tilda, and if she's still available, she'll pop up. If not, check out some of the other kits that are there. So let's get started. Alright, so I'm going to start out by outlining my image, and for that I'm going to use B000, B000, and my colorless blender. I'm going to start with my B000, and I'm just going to outline my entire girl. So I'm going to start right here in her hand, and I'm just going to go all the way around. And I'm not too worried about being, perfect, because it's supposed to be water, and she's got some bubbles out here that I'm going to go around too. But I'm just going to work my way all the way around, go around her hair. Here, and just work. Go around that bubble. And here's a bubble up here, so we can get that. And some of these bubbles I'm actually going to cover up later with some pearls, but just for now I'm just going to go ahead and color them all in, or go around all of them, so that I won't have to. They'll have some color out here. Alright, and some of her hair's got little swirls, so I'm going to go ahead and do the little swirls and just work my way all the way back around to the other side. Get these little bubbles, and this one's got a little piece of hair, and here's a swirl, and here's some hair, but I still want to do these bubbles. And this way too, if you accidentally color on the girl or on your sea fish, you can take your colors blender and we can erase it, so that makes it nice. Doing the outlining first. Okay. So my daughter Emily came over to babysit today, so I could do the video for the store blog. So if you hear the dogs barking, it's because they've taken the kids outside, Natalie and Lexi, outside to play in the baby pool, and the dogs are just having a blast running in and out of the baby pool with them. Okay, so I went all the way around, so now I'm going to grab my B000 and I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I want to go ahead and lay my pen down on top of my B000, so I'm touching it, but I want to make my line bigger. So I'm going to just go all the way, and like these big bubbles out here, I'm just going to go ahead and go around those and fill it all the way in. Move my pen here. I filled that little section in, and I just want to go all the way and like clear around this bubble. You can just fill that whole section in and make it all blue water out here. And if you wanted your background to be wider, you just make it go out as far as you wanted. And in the card I actually I forgot to cut my piece out before I came to color, but the piece is cut out with a large circle spellbinders die, and I used some distress ink to add some blue even more around the outside of my girl. And I'm going to fill this little section here in between her tail, and I'm just going to work my way down along this line until I come back up and connect with my other pile over here. Okay, then I'm going to take my colorless blender, and like I said, if you got some on her, you could now erase it. So I've got a little bit on her tail right here. I'm just going to go in and brush that away. But I'm just going to take my colorless blender, and I'm going to just go in a circular motion and go clear over all that blue, and it's also going out farther than the blue that I colored. So I've brushed out past it, so it'll soften the edge of the line and blend into the paper a little bit better. And because I'm doing it beforehand, I don't have to worry that I'm coloring on the girl. I don't have to worry about erasing it. I'm just going to go all the way around, get down here in between her tail, and work my way clear back around over here to her hand where I started. And you just do that as many times as you want until you get it as soft and blended as you would like it. And so I think that looks pretty good, so I'm just going to leave it like that. And you also want to do it, you want to have your blender pen be filled. You want it to be really wet when you do that. So let's go ahead and go color her skin. So for our skin, we're going to use E21, E00, E000, and for our cheeks, I'm going to use R22, R20, and R30. And I'm going to start with my E21, and I'm going to add some shadows. So let's just go ahead and start over here on this arm, and she's got some little pearls right here that I'm going to go down the side of. And I'm just going to work my brush clear down the side of her body, where her arm is touching herself and her fin, until I get down here to her bottom of her hand. And then she's got her belly showing right here, so I'm going to go ahead and go underneath of her little tank top, or her little top. And she's got a little bit over here showing still. And her belly button, I'm going to color that little belly button in. And then for her neck, let's go underneath of her neck, on her chest, and then I'm going to go again down the side of those beads and come around to her little pearl there in the front. And then for this arm, let's outline this arm on this side. And down the side there. And then I'm going to grab the E00. Let's get a little bit closer there. And I'm going to lay my pen down on top of my 21, and I'm going to just drag my brush out here into my white. By touching the 21, I'm softening it up as I pull away from it. And then for her stomach down here, I'm just going to fill that in. That's a pretty dinky area. But again, I'll want to touch down on top of the 21 and kind of rub it a little bit so that it fills that section in. I don't want to get too crazy with my brushing, so I kind of, if the area is small, I tend to just rub my brush around a little bit. And that way I don't color outside of the lines quite so much. Okay, and I did leave a little bit of white over here on the edge of her arm so I could add some E000. Then this side, same thing, you're going to go ahead and add your E00 over here. And I'm touching down on top of my E21 again. And I didn't quite soften that line enough, so I'm going to go back and brush it again. Like that. And then I'm going to grab E000. And I'm going to fill this section in. So I'm going to go ahead and brush down on top of my E000. And I'm going to add E_0 out to the edge. Same with this one. I want to touch down on the color I already laid down and pull up onto the top of her arm. And if you have a few little lines left, like up here on her neck I've got a little bit, I'm just going to brush my E00 right over the top of that, and that'll soften that line even more. Okay, that's good for her body. So let's go up here and do her face. So I'm going to grab my E21, and I want to give her a little bit of a nose definition. So I'm going to take my E21, I'm just going to draw me a little line like that. And then I'm going to hold my pen a little bit more at a flat angle, and I'm going to brush right along the side of her face. And I want to brush up here underneath of her bangs. And we're going to go down the side of this side of her face. And for me, brushing it a little bit makes it be lighter out here towards the end. Then I'm going to grab E00. And again, I'm going to put down my pen on top of the E21. And I'm just going to flick right out here into the middle. And work my way clear around to the other side. And I'm not too worried if the line's not completely blended, because I'm going to go back and do it again after I've done my cheeks. So now I've got E000, and I'm just going to flick right over the middle there. Fill the rest of that in. And I'm going to add some cheek color, so I've grabbed R22. And it's pretty pink. I'm just going to go right along the edge there, and I love that there's already some lines right here already drawn, like little dots on her cheek. Okay, like that. Then I'm going to go with my R20, and I want to touch down on top of R22, and I'm just going to brush out and make my circles just a little bit larger. So I brush just past the edge. And then I'm going to take R30 and do the same thing. So I'm going to touch down on top of my R22 and R20, and just feather out past, making that line just a little bit softer. Now I'm going to grab our E21 again, and this side of her face is kind of tipped down, so I want it to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to go right along the edge, and I'm going to flick just like I did the first time and add my E21. Then I'm going to grab E00, and I want to pull that color out, so I'm going to touch down on top of my 21. I want to go past those cheeks so I can blend this and soften those. And then same for this side. I'm going to go ahead and brush right over that cheek, right out here into the middle. And then I'm going to take my E000. I'm just going to brush right over the middle there. And now if you have a little line like up here, I have just a little bit showing, I'm just going to brush over that real quick and soften that right up. And look at those cute rosy cheeks. So now let's go work on her hair, and for that I'm going to use E15, 13, and 11. I'm going to start with my E15 and add some shadows. So she's got a little part right here in the middle of her head, so I'm going to go ahead and run my E15 just down, and I'm using just the tip of my pen and working along that part. And then I'm just going to randomly go in and pick some of these lines that the artist already drew on here for me and give those a little brush of color. I'm just going to go work my way down. And let's get down here. Add a few little swirls in there. And just add some of these shadow colors in there. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to pick some of these lines that the artist already drew for me. And I'm just going to add those in. Add some shadows. And you can have as many or as few as you like. Down here, and I want to get out here and some of these little, add a few little swirls out here on the outside. And then she's got a little section of hair that kind of shows in between his little snout right here. And I'm going to go ahead and give a little dab of color. Okay, and then I'm going to grab E13, and I'm just going to go right back over that color I just laid down. So I'm going to go over each line, only I'm making my lines a little bit wider. Work my way down here. And a few spaces, like this one right here, there's no color in there. I'm going to go ahead and add a little color, a little bit of this color in there. So like this little swirl right here, just add a little dab. And I think I'll add a little bit right here. And then I'm going to go do the same thing on this side. So I'm just going to go right over those lines I drew with my E15 and just darken those up. And spread that out. And again, like right here there's no color, so I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of this color in there. Just give a little bit more texture for when I get to my lightest color. And then I better add a little bit down here. And again right here where he's not got anything showing, or that's her hair, you can see through the back. And then I'm going to switch to my E11, and I want to fill the rest of this in. So I'm going to go down here and I'm just going to brush over the whole color. And that will soften the lines you already laid down and help blend them all together. Be careful not to color her arm. And work my way up here, getting this little curly Q. And she's got a few little bubbles in her hair that I'm going to try to avoid. But if you do color over them, you can take your colorless blender and push the ink back off after you've finished coloring her. Let's go down here and get this one. Just work our way. Right along here. I'm trying not to color his fin or his little hair do he's got going there. Brush up. outside of this one, here, and then again she's got some bubbles right in here, so I'm going to try to avoid those. But if I get color on them, no big deal. I'll just erase that later. And there, we've given her some nice red hair. So let's go down here and color her fin. So for a mermaid tail, we are going to use BV04, 02, and 01, and then we're going to use BG 53, 11, and 10. So I'm going to start with my BV04. Let's move in just a little bit. Okay, and I want to add a little bit of color to her top. So she's got some lines here that are already on her top, and I'm just going to go right over the top of those with my 04, like that. And then I'm going to go down here to her tail, and I want to add a little bit of shadow, so I'm going to go right next to my little seahorse on her tail, like that. And if your pen is like mine, and I hardly ever use this pen, it's really wet, so you want to be careful. I'm going to go along the bottom here, and add a little bit of color in each of these little swirls. And then let's go up here and add a little bit, and I'm just barely touching the tip of my pen to her tail because it's pretty wet. And I'm just going to give each one of these little swirls a little dab of color there. And then on the bottom of her tail down here, she's got some lines. So I'm going to go ahead and color right over the top of those lines, like that. Then I'm going to go with my BV02, and I just want to make those lines a little bit wider. So I'm going to color right over the top of my BV04 with my 02. And if you think you need a little bit more color on the side, you could add a little bit extra. And then same down here. I must have used this one a little bit more because it's not quite so wet. I just want to color over each one of those I already laid down and make them a little bit wider and soften the edge just a little bit. And then for her tail, again, she's got these lines down here, so I'm just going to go brush right over the top of those, like that. And I know it looks very messy now, but that's okay. Okay, then I'm going to go with my BV01, and I want to add a little bit of that color. So we're just going to go in here and dab right over the top of those two colors I already laid down. And then we're going to come down here, and we're going to add a little bit of this color on top of this. I think I'll add a little bit over here, maybe. And just give some of this some color along the edge here. You could also do some dots if you wanted to do the dotty, kind of like a little dotty thing on her tail. That would look really cute too. Okay. Next I'm going to go with BG53, and I'm going to add some of that color down here onto her tail. So I'm going to pick some of these little bumps and just lay my pen down on top of the purple that's already there, and work my way along. And I think down here on her tail where she's got these little dots, I'm going to add just a little dab of this color along the edge there. And I know you can just barely see it, but there's a little line. And then I'm going to switch to BG11. And I want to soften that color up, so I'm going to go ahead and go right over the top of it. And yes, I'm starting over here in the purple and kind of pulling along. And I think I'll actually go over here on this little bump and add some of this color right in here, like that. And then again for her tail, I'm going to brush right over the top of that color I just laid down of my BG53, and we're going to add this color. And I think I maybe will swipe right over the top of this purple a little bit. Then I'm going to grab BG10, and I know I didn't add any of the color of that up here, but I'm just going to go over my top, that, and then I'm just going to work my way down my fin and brush right over that and make sure I filled in all of my white. Okay, I'm going to take my colorless blender, and I'm just going to, and you don't want to put too much because it'll bleed out, but I'm just going to very lightly brush over the top and just kind of swirl those colors all together. So you're just going to go just like this. So you just want to lightly go over the whole area with your blender pen and just swirl it all together. And I like that it kind of lightened it a little bit and blended everything and made it look all, I don't know, tie-dyed, I guess. But like that. I like that. So now let's go do our little seahorse right here. Okay, so for the seahorse, we're going to use YG99, 95, 93, and 01. We're also going to use G000 and quadruple 0 and our colorless blender. So I'm going to start with YG99 and I'm going to add some shadows. So let's go ahead and start up here at the top. So right above his little fin here, I'm just going to draw a little line, and I'm just barely using the tip of my pen to draw a long line right along that little line that he's already got there, over to the other side. And then I want to give a little bit of shadow in here underneath of his cheek. So I'm going to give that a little dab. And then I'm going to brush each one of these little cute nose lines he's got. And then down here at the bottom, I want to get a little bit on this little fin. He's got a couple of little lines there, so I'm going to go under her arm and get those little lines. And then for this little fin, I want to go along the edge of his body. Like that. And then for his tail, let's give that... He's got a couple of little lines in there. I think I'll add some color too, that the artist already drew for me. That's perfect. Like that. And then let's add, oh, let's get this line. But let's add a little bit to his stomach here. And again, I'm just using the tip of my pen because it's, and I don't use this one very much, so it's pretty wet. And then he's also got a fin showing over here on this side that I'm going to give a little dab of color. Okay, then I'm going to switch to YG95. And I want to just color right over the top of that color I just laid down, but I want to make the line just a little bit thicker. I'm just going to go like that. And evidently we're done playing in the pool, so if you hear the kids, I'll try to edit it out, but they've never had to do, Emily's never been over when I've shot videos before, so she doesn't know that, you know, you have to be quiet. They're downstairs just having a blast. I usually try to catch all that noise and stop the tape and then start again when they're done screaming or laughing or whatever it is they're doing down there, the dog going off. Sometimes I just don't get it though. Okay, so I've done all those lines and thickened them up. So now I'm going to grab YG93 and let's do the same thing. I'm just going to go exactly over the top of all those lines again, and I'm just going to thicken those up just a little bit more. And I think I'll take this one and go along the bottom of his cheek, over here to his snout, maybe grab a little bit on his mouth. Add a little bit of that color in there. Okay, and work my way down. That. Okay, and then I'm going to grab YG01. Oh, this is a nice, pretty yellowish green color. And I'm just going to brush right over the top of those last three colors and pull that line out just a little bit more. Let's go in here, add some color to his little cheeks and his snout. Let's go over his little nose, little lines there. And I'm going to try not to color his eyes. It's got a couple of eyes showing there. And then I'm going to go down here. We're going to add a little bit more color to his fins. And just do the same thing. We're just going to add a little bit more of our color while brushing over the other three colors I just laid down, so that it'll give those just a little bit of a tinge of this pretty bright green color. Okay, that looks really good. Now I'm going to grab G000. Same thing, I just want to add a little bit more color, so I'm just going to brush right over the top of those. I'm going to leave a little bit of the white there at the end so that I can add my lightest color. And let's go down here. We'll add some colors right on top of this. Again, try not to color his eye. And get his belly in here. And in some places I've run out of room. That's okay. I don't mind. He's a seahorse. I wanted him to be pretty colorful. And then I'm going to go with G quadruple 0 just to fill that the rest of the way in. So if I miss some white or some color, I'm going to just brush right over the top and fill it the rest of the way in. And my pin's kind of dragging, so I must need to fill this one up a little bit. Must have used it more than I thought. Okay, so that's what he looks like now, and he does look kind of rustic. So I'm going to take my colorless blender like I did for her tail, and I'm just going to brush right over the top of the whole thing and kind of swoosh it back and forth and just move that color around and blend it all together. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing down here. And I'm trying not to get my pen on her or on the outside, on the outline, because it will move that ink around too. Just soften him up just a bit, give him a more blended kind of tie-dyed look. Okay, I'm liking that, so I'm going to leave him like that. But I want to give him a little bit of a cheek color, so I'm going to grab my R20, give that a little swirl, and then I'm going to grab R30 and just go over the edge there. And then to soften, I'm going to take my colorless blender and just quickly wipe over the top of it. And then for all these great little bubbles that are up here, and oh, and let's do these pearls too, the pearls on her little outfit, I'm going to take my BG10 and fill those in. Same, she's got some colors, some up here in her hair. So I'm just going to take and dab those. And these in her hair, I actually went in and put some glossy accents on. I added some stickles, some Spica glitter pin to her hair, and then I added some glossy accents on top of all these little bubbles. And these bigger bubbles, I put some pearls on top of. And for her tail down here, when I did the card, I put some Stickle Stardust on there. So that is Pearl Tilda. Doesn't she look super cute? And here is the finished card. Isn't it very cute? And I loved this Big Splash Memory Box die right here. This one and this loopy border. I hadn't tried them yet, and they were really fun. But when you're cutting this one out, make sure to be careful when you're pulling it out of the die, because some of these little swirls here were really delicate. And so after 6 or 7 times of pulling it out, it started ripping them, so I had to be really careful when I pulled all those out. So that is our Pearl Tilda card kit. If you're interested in that, head over to the store and pick it up. Otherwise, check out some of the other stuff that's over there. And I hope you had fun coloring with me today, and we'll see you next time. Bye.